This story starts inside a classroom where a school bully, Colton Choi, was sitting and chatting with his lackeys, and he was telling them about how he bullied some guy and they laugh about it. Meanwhile, another loser nerd student in class, Eugene, is dripping buckets of sweat as he thinks that he is done for, as he blames his luck for ending up in the school full of delinquents. It hadn't even been a week since school started, but the hierarchy was already in place. Eugene compares kids like himself to a slave monkey and the bullies like Colton as their king. Eugene spent all of middle school doing the bread shuttle, which was like being an errand boy for the bullies, and he is not too keen of it to be facing the same situation in high school too. Suddenly, the bully, Colton, spits on a student sitting in front of him and started to mock him, while the meek student gets angry, but he is unable to react. At that moment, Eugene felt relieved that it was not him, even if it was pathetic and selfish to think that. Eugene suddenly notices Colton looking at his way and gets really nervous, while Colton points that the loser sitting there looks like a girl and says that he might look alright if they force him to wear a dress, and he points out that even that guy's eyelashes are long like a girl. Colton's lackey points out that the guy's name is Gray Yun, and Colton smirks, saying that they should take a look and check what he is packing. Colton walks up to Gray and suddenly picks him up, grabbing his shirt, and he grabs Gray between his legs. Colton laughs, saying that Gray is actually packing under there while still holding him from behind. Gray keeps calm, and as Colton is distracted, Gray suddenly smacks Colton's face with his elbow. Colton loses his grip on Gray, leaving the other students, including Eugene, shocked and in disbelief. Swiftly, Gray picks up his backpack, and as Colton angrily tries to attack him, Gray binds Colton's hands with the backpack strap and swiftly kicks him behind the knee, causing him to fall to the ground. Colton screams in anger while Gray calmly walks in front of him, grabbing his hair and slapping him hard. Colton's nose starts to bleed, but he continues to threaten Gray. Gray keeps slapping him, asking if he finally understands. The other students watch in shock, and even Colton's followers are speechless. Eugene is amazed, as he has never witnessed anything like this before. Gray then warns Colton that if he ever causes a scene in his class again, he will gouge his eyes out. This was Gray Yun's first fight as a freshman at Unjang High, and no one had ever seen someone as cunning as him before that day, nor after. In a different class at Unjang Middle School, Ben Park sarcastically questions his friend Alex Go about defeating Colton Choi. Ben claims that Colton has already been beaten up today. Ben shares the story of how Gray, a kid, tied up Colton and slapped him. However, his friends doubt his words and mock him for inventing such a crazy tale. Ben suggests that they go and verify the situation in Class 5. Ben and Alex, along with their friends, head to Class 5. From outside, Ben points at Gray, but the others remain skeptical about this seemingly delicate guy beating up Colton. Ben explains that Colton even left early out of embarrassment, accompanied by his gang. Despite the disbelief, one of them confirms that it actually happened. Gray literally slapped the devil out of Colton after restraining him. Suddenly, Ben and Alex notice Gerard Jean, a student from Dewey UI Middle School, who was also observing Gray. Ben approaches Gerard and asks if he came out of curiosity. Gerard smirks and mocks Alex and Ben for still being inseparable. These four students, Alex, Ben, Gerard, and Gray, will eventually come together and become legends of Unjang High. However, that story is still far ahead of us. As the school day ends, the students start pouring out of the school. Gray walks alone through the streets in silence, but he suddenly senses trouble. This feeling has rarely been wrong before. Gray spots Colton and his goons, and he approaches them with his usual expressionless face. Colton becomes annoyed and starts insulting Gray, but his goons begin to laugh at him. Colton tries to explain himself, but his goons continue to mock him. Colton claims that Gray used unfair tactics to defeat him, but his ego is now shattered. Gray simply looks at him and questions how he could call his tactics unfair. Gray points out that his own body is like a skeleton and his height is just over 5 feet, making it impossible for a fair fight to even begin. Gray glares at them with anger, but he pushes down his nervousness and confidently taunts them, acknowledging that he is outnumbered and outclassed. Colton and his gang become irritated as Gray taunts and threatens them. A burly thug steps forward, joining in on the threats towards Gray. Despite feeling scared and nervous, Gray knows he must not show his fear. He believes that the fear he is experiencing is merely an illusion and focuses on finding a way to come out on top. Gray stands his ground without uttering a word, which prompts the goons to mock him for his silence. Gray realizes that he needs to eliminate the burly guy in front of him first. He suppresses his emotions and aims to make them feel the fear he is feeling. As the burly guy swings his fist at Gray, he swiftly dodges it by ducking. Seizing the opportunity, Gray grabs onto the thug's pants and pulls with all his might. The thug loses his balance and crashes hard onto the ground. Without wasting any time, Gray jumps on top of him and delivers a forceful stomp to his chest, followed by a powerful kick to his face. Colton and the other guys are furious and charge towards Gray, ready to attack. However, Gray is one step ahead and quickly throws dirt into the other guy's face. The guy screams in agony as the dirt gets into his eyes. Seizing the opportunity, Gray smacks him with a phone right on his eyes. Colton trembles in fear as he witnesses his companions in excruciating pain. Without uttering a word, Gray starts to walk away. Reminding Colton of his warning, Gray swiftly pulls out his belt and strikes Colton on the head with it. Colton screams in agony and begins to bleed. Gray berates him, asking if he now understands why he is being defeated. He stares directly into Colton's eyes and declares that it's because he is predictably pitiful. Gray calmly walks away while Colton and his companions collapse to the ground, crying out in pain and shock. Gerard, who had been observing from the sidelines, realizes that he had anticipated Colton causing a scene if he lost. Worried, he had followed him, but he never expected Gray Yun to handle the situation in this manner. The rumors quickly spread, and all the students were buzzing about Colton and his gang getting into a fight, as well as Gray using sneaky tactics. Some students were envious of Gray, while others exaggerated the story, and some even believed they could take on the rumored student. Gray nonchalantly walks into class, causing the other students to whisper about him. He takes a seat next to Eugene, who is trembling and sweating profusely. Eugene never expected Gray to be so intimidating, especially after the disrespectful things he said to him the day before, when he tried to warn Gray about Colton and advised him not to make eye contact. Suddenly, a group of eccentric-looking students burst into the classroom and demand everyone to be quiet. One of them, wearing a face mask, locks eyes with Eugene and Gray, leaving Eugene on the verge of wetting himself. Gray simply glances at the masked student, and the masked individual swiftly pulls up a chair, positioning himself directly in front of the class with his two companions trailing behind. The guy calls out to Gray, while Gray had already anticipated the guy's actions. The masked individual inquires if the rumors are true, that Gray had indeed confronted Colton, Royce, and Eddie at the bridge yesterday, only to flee the scene. Eugene is taken aback as he realizes that the rumors were, in fact, accurate. The masked guy proceeds to mention that he doesn't care about the foolish Colton, but Royce happens to be his cousin. He nonchalantly swings his chair back, stating that he will accept Gray's apology and let the matter rest, assuming Gray already knows who he is. Eugene is aware of this person, Philip Kim, who had previously dominated Imdo Middle School before transferring here. Gray calmly declines the apology request, asserting that there is no reason for him to apologize and he also has no knowledge of the masked guy's identity. Ben Park bursts into laughter and playfully grabs Kim's shoulder, remarking that Imdo Middle School is the weakest school around and nobody cares about his status here. With a firm squeeze on Kim's shoulder, Ben reminds him that he had warned him about the consequences if he continued to act superior. He advises Kim to stop pretending to be tough with his silly mask in someone else's class and return to his own. Ben also instructs the other troublemakers to back off. Nervously, the other goons comply, while Gray stands there, utterly bewildered by the whole situation. Ben chuckles and apologizes to Gray for causing a scene, and before Gray can utter a word, Ben swiftly pulls Kim out of the classroom and exits. Eugene, still feeling anxious, is taken aback by Ben's unexpected apology to Gray. He admires Gray's bravery and considers him quite fortunate. Eugene hopes that this school year will be filled with tranquility. Kim is fuming with anger, sitting on the school rooftop. He can't help but feel humiliated by the clown, Ben, who made him look foolish in front of everyone. The pain in his shoulder serves as a constant reminder of what happened in class. Kim contemplates the inevitable outcome if he were to ever confront Ben in a fight. He is determined to seek revenge someday. As he scrolls through his phone, contemplating who to call, Kim's eyes land on the perfect contact. He dials Jimmy, knowing that he also has a score to settle with Ben. Meanwhile, Jimmy is busy bullying someone when Kim's call interrupts him. Annoyed, he answers the phone, wondering what Kim wants this time. Kim proceeds to explain the situation, revealing that Ben is plotting against Jimmy. Rage fills Jimmy as he questions the truth behind Kim's words. Kim informs Jimmy that Ben had claimed he would have easily defeated Jimmy if Donald hadn't intervened in their fight. Furthermore, Ben threatens to completely destroy Jimmy the next time they cross paths. Kim, being cunning, manipulates Jimmy by making him believe that Ben is speaking ill of him. This manipulation tactic works flawlessly as Jimmy becomes extremely agitated and expresses his desire to harm Ben. Kim finds amusement in the success of his plan. Jimmy warns Kim not to inform Donald about this, as he intends to take matters into his own hands and seek revenge on Ben. Kim ends the call with a laugh, confident that his knowledge of Jimmy's gullibility has paid off. On the other side, Jimmy explains the entire situation to his associates, informing them that Ben Park is spreading rumors about crushing him. Later that evening, Jimmy and Ben engage in a heated brawl, leaving both of them badly bruised. Suddenly, a voice calls out to Jimmy, pointing out that he's all talk and no action, dragging the fight unnecessarily. It dawns on Jimmy that it's Donald Na. Earlier, Jimmy was seething with anger after a phone call with Kim, and he takes out his frustration by bullying some students, eventually telling them to leave. Determined to take revenge on Ben, Jimmy contacts one of his henchmen, Jack, instructing him to gather the boys and bring Ben to him the next day. Although the other goons are fearful, Jack agrees to carry out the order. Jimmy declares that this time he will completely destroy Ben, ensuring he never dares to speak of crushing him again. In Unjang High, Gray is still in class while Eugene sits beside him, contemplating how Gray manages to study despite everything that has happened. Eugene notices that Gray is shorter than him and has a slender frame, making him appear almost feminine. Eugene recalls witnessing Gray's fight with Colton the day before and is amazed at how skilled Gray is in combat. Suddenly, Gray turns to Eugene and asks if he has something to say. Eugene is startled and quickly explains that he was just warning Gray about the dangers of commuting through the bridge underpass, as it is a hotspot for incidents and delinquents. Gray dismisses Eugene's concerns, stating that it is the fastest route. Eugene tries to argue, but both of them forget one crucial detail amidst the recent chain of events. Even without Colton Choi, Unjang High is still infested with troublemakers, like hungry hyenas. The other students glare at Gray with anger and disgust, believing that he overestimates his toughness while they see themselves as mere losers. They even question if Colton was truly as tough as he portrayed himself to be. Gray abruptly stands up, catching Eugene off guard. Eugene inquires about Gray's destination, to which Gray responds that he's heading to the bathroom. Meanwhile, Eugene anxiously contemplates the potential dangers lurking in the bathroom. Inside, two boys engage in a conversation about skipping math class, while Gray proceeds to wash his hands. Suddenly, one of the boys forcefully pushes Gray and insults him, labeling him a loser. Gray remains silent, observing the boy as he washes his hands in the sink. Gray contemplates the idea of retaliating against these acts of disrespect, but finds them increasingly bothersome. Exiting the bathroom, Gray ponders how people are enslaved by appearances, realizing that he must appear as an easy target to these fools. Reflecting on a past incident, Gray resolves not to let history repeat itself. Gray returns to his classroom and takes a seat next to Eugene. As he sits down, he notices a fresh bruise on the back of Eugene's neck. Gray wonders what might have happened while he was away, but he's feeling tired and decides not to say anything. Meanwhile, Eugene is feeling extremely nervous. He had intended to stay quiet and blend in, but he couldn't help getting excited and acting as if Gray was his best friend. While Gray was out of the classroom, Eugene had been contemplating how to strike up a conversation with him and ask about his day. However, before he could do so, Another student unexpectedly smacks Eugene hard on the back of his neck and tells him to be quiet, calling him a loser. This cruel act leaves Eugene on the verge of tears, feeling threatened. Although Gray has returned to the classroom, he understands the situation. He knows that Eugene hasn't fully grasped what's going on yet, and he's never witnessed anyone like him losing control. Gray is tired of it all too, and he realizes that if the other students leave Eugene alone, he won't have to intervene. For now, being a bystander seems like the most rational decision. In the school corridors, Ben and Alex are having a conversation while walking. Suddenly, Ben suggests that they play a game of pool together. However, Alex is not really interested. Nevertheless, Ben tries to persuade him by mentioning a girl who was at the pool hall the day before. He claims that she looks like a stunning character from a TV drama. Curious, Alex asks Ben if he has enough money for the game. Ben eagerly agrees and gives him a hug before they leave. Unbeknownst to them, Kim is observing their interaction from behind and smirks. He sends a text to Jimmy, feeling confident that he will now be able to enjoy the upcoming spectacle with some snacks. Upon receiving the text, Jack gathers his gang, preparing to confront Ben Park. Meanwhile, in school, Ben suggests to Alex that they should skip their last class and leave. He convinces Alex by pointing out that they never skip any classes and they might miss seeing the girl if they're late. Alex considers this to be a valid argument, and both of them excitedly run out of the school. Ben and Alex arrive at the pool place and notice that everything appears to be quite calm. However, they jokingly express their fear as they enter the shop. Meanwhile, in school, Gray begins to walk out while the other bullies simply observe him. Gray is aware that they are testing him. The goon becomes increasingly angry and exclaims that the more he looks at Gray, the more he can't believe that Gray is acting like he's the king there. He mentions that Colton isn't present and they could easily take Gray out. Just as they receive the announcement for the next class, Gray returns to the classroom and takes his seat. The goons enter behind him and the big guy accidentally spits on Gray's leg. Mockingly, he laughs and claims it was an honest mistake, just needing to clear his throat. Before Gray can react, the class begins and the teacher enters, instructing the students to sit down and start. Gray contemplates what more he needs to do to make them understand, as he believes he has already demonstrated his capabilities. Despite his anger, Gray tries to restrain himself from reacting, while the bullies laugh at him from the back. Jack heads towards the destination upon receiving a message from Kim, informing him that they will meet Ben and Alex at the underpass at 4 p.m. Meanwhile, in the school, Eugene feels frightened as he recalls how the other bullies remained silent when Colton Choi was around. However, things have changed now, as they have started to target Gray and refuse to acknowledge his true abilities. Eugene glances at Gray, who is sitting beside him, radiating with anger and determination. Ben and Alex enter the pool shop, only to find it completely empty. However, their disappointment quickly fades as a vibrant girl with purple hair emerges and warmly greets them. Blushing instantly, Ben and Alex listen attentively as the girl explains that the owner is currently away. She kindly offers to take their drink orders instead. Ben, feeling playful, suggests they play a game of 3-ball and requests a coffee for himself. Alex, wanting to follow suit, also asks for a coffee. With a cute flip of her hair, the girl heads off to fetch their drinks. Little do they know, outside the shop, Jack and his gang of bikers have arrived and are waiting at the underpass, thinking they've arrived a bit early. In the school, the class bell rings and Gray glances back at the bullies. However, they swiftly rise from their seats and exit the classroom, leaving Gray deep in thought, knowing he will confront them soon. Exiting the school, Gray engrosses himself in a book, but suddenly recalls Eugene's warning about the dangerous underpass. Eugene had mentioned a fellow student being stabbed and rushed to the hospital. As Gray approaches the underpass, he spots a group of students engaged in conversation, particularly about Ben Park. Counting 5 students, Gray realizes he can't handle them all and decides to take a detour, avoiding any unnecessary conflict. Just as he starts to walk away, a hefty boy from the group notices Gray's departure and begins to verbally abuse him, demanding his return. Annoyed, Gray turns around, feeling frustrated as he realizes he doesn't have a solution for this situation. The thick boy starts to laugh like a maniac and mocks Gray, He goes up to him and starts to drag him back while Gray is still calculating if he can take on 5 opponents, as he has never done that before, and he wonders if he should just submit to them for now. The thick boy smiles, thinking that maybe Ben already made a run for it, and he now mocks Gray and smacks him on his head. The thick boy thinks that he should just toy with this kid and get him to leave. Gray is holding on his anger and thinks if he should just let this happen, but he thinks that he already took on 3 opponents before, and he gets the urge to do just the opposite and decides to just crush this thickness. Gray grabs the pen from his pocket calmly and grabs the thick boy's hand and shoves it away, and he swiftly stabs the pen into the thick boy's palm. The thick boy screams in pain, and the other guys suddenly stand up seeing what's happening, but Gray already had a brick in his hand and he smashes it hard on the thick boy's head. Gray grabs his hair and asks him if he wants him to call his mother, and he looks at the thick boy enraged. At the pool shop, Alex and Ben suddenly notice something going on at the underpass as Ben looks out from the window. Alex recognizes that one of the guys there is Jack Kong, Jimmy Bay's valet, and Ben says if they are here to take him down. Ben notices Gray as he is dealing with the thick boy, and Ben says that the Gray kid has guts. Ben rushes out screaming that it has been a while since he has had the opportunity to let loose. Even Alex thinks that this Gray young guy is really cool, and he rushes out behind Ben to join in on the fun while the girl screams at them to pay first. At the underpass, Gray finds himself in a tough situation as the thick boy tries to overpower him. The other guys are shouting and closing in on him. Gray realizes that taking on 5 guys alone is impossible, but he remains calm and believes there must be a way out. He decides to wait for the first guy to make a move, planning to counter with a swift kick. However, to his surprise, another guy steps in and kicks the bully in the stomach. It's Gerard, who has come to Gray's aid. The other bullies become irritated and start yelling at Gerard. One of them informs Gray that Gerard is from Dui Middle School. Gray is puzzled as Gerard greets him, wondering how this guy knows his name. Gerard expresses his unease about dealing with a large group of people and asks Gray if they can handle them. Gray responds by saying that his plan is to defeat one more person and hope for the best. Even if he loses after that, he doesn't care. Gerard looks at Gray nervously, realizing that he is more reckless than he appears. Jack and the others become annoyed and question whether they can handle the situation they've gotten themselves into. Suddenly, they hear another voice from behind. Gray recognizes it as Ben and Alex. Ben enters the scene, laughing excitedly and taunting them for being in one place. Jack screams in realization that it's Ben Park. Ben looks at them menacingly and sarcastically asks if they're here to capture him. He then joins forces with Gray and Gerard, claiming to be on Gray's team now. Gray Yun had always been a lone fighter, but this time, things were different. He decided to join forces with his new buddies. However, when Jack mentioned that they were only there for Ben, tensions arose. Ben questioned why he should listen to Jimmy's minion and why Jimmy didn't come himself. He even mocked Jimmy, wondering if he was just pretending to be a big-shot bad guy. Jack, infuriated, yelled at Ben to shut up and threatened him. Alex, unable to tolerate the threats, charged at Jack and delivered a powerful punch to his face, knocking him down. Ben had only intended to talk to them and ask them to leave, but Alex couldn't control his anger. Alex unleashes a flurry of punches at Jack, who desperately shields his face with his arms. In the midst of the chaos, Jack's mind races, realizing that he had always underestimated Alex as a mere sidekick to Ben. Unexpectedly, Alex lunges forward for another punch, but Jack anticipates it and swiftly retaliates with a counter punch, halting Alex's advance. Although Alex chuckles, his laughter is abruptly interrupted when another individual delivers a forceful kick to his back. Frustrated, Alex attempts to strike again, but Jack skillfully counters with a powerful punch, forcing Alex to stumble backward. Jack mocks him, calling him foolish, while Ben's fury erupts as he declares that they now have to confront all of them. As the thugs were restraining Alex and assaulting him, Ben intervenes by stopping Jack and firmly gripping his arm. With a smirk, Ben reminds them that ganging up on one person is not a nice thing to do. Jack starts feeling nervous as he realizes the strength of Ben's grip, wondering how Jimmy confronted this guy. Meanwhile, Gerard kicks one of the thugs while restraining another, and Alex goes all out on another, launching a series of punches. The thick guy sneaks up behind Gray, thinking he can take him on alone. However, Gray remains calm and turns to face him, stating that grabbing collars is not the way to go and he should have just thrown a punch. Gray then grabs the guy's finger and twists it forcefully, causing him to scream in agony. While still holding onto his finger, Gray pushes him down and issues a threat. Finally releasing his grip on the finger, Gray grabs the guy's head and forcefully smacks it against a wall. The rest of the group, who were dealing with the other thugs, suddenly hear a loud crack and turn to witness Gray's actions. The guy collapses to the ground, unconscious, while Gray appears visibly annoyed and instructs them to stop. In the pool shop later, Ben engages in a conversation with Alex and Gerard, who joined him for a game. Alex mentions feeling worn out after the fight, making it difficult for him to concentrate on the game. He curiously questions why Gerard decided to join them. Gerard playfully responds, advising Alex not to be impolite and to view it as a celebration instead. However, Gerard secretly steals glances at a girl, which is the true reason he tagged along. Ben remains perplexed about Gray, who abruptly left, claiming he had to attend an after-school class. Ben finds it absurd that Gray would prioritize his studies after causing such chaos. Nevertheless, Alex and Gerard assert that it aligns perfectly with Gray's character. 30 minutes ago, Ben turned around to express his gratitude to Gray after they dealt with the goons, only to find that Gray had already left the scene. They searched for him, but then noticed Gray walking ahead. Ben called out to him, excitedly inviting him to join them for some ramen. Gray turned around slowly and declined, mentioning that he had other things to attend to. He advised them to carry on with their plans, as he wasn't interested, and walked away at a leisurely pace. Later, at the pool shop, Alex wondered if the goons would simply leave them alone. Ben reassured him, saying that Jimmy wouldn't allow that to happen and he wouldn't stay silent either. Ben confidently stated that Jimmy could handle anything, questioning what could possibly go wrong. After finishing their game, they approached the girl, leaving Gerard to handle the payment. As they made their way downstairs, Ben asked Alex if he was still bothered by what had happened earlier. Alex remained silent, prompting Ben to reassure him that it wasn't his fault and he should let it go. Meanwhile, Gerard followed behind them, feeling confused about their conversation and wondering what they were discussing. Gray enters an after-school class that has already begun, and the teacher informs him that coming in late disrupts the class. Gray apologizes, takes his seat, and catches the attention of a girl who finds him incredibly attractive and thinks he would make a great idol. The teacher then announces a 10-minute break and instructs the students to use the restroom if needed. During the break, some students discuss the rumors they heard about Unjang High being invaded. One of the students, Hugo, expresses his desire to have been there himself, while others speculate that Yusun High must have easily defeated them, mentioning how tough Jimmy and Jack are. They laugh, joking that Unjang is probably in a tough spot now. The girl sitting in front of them becomes annoyed with their conversation, as they are discussing unrelated topics during class. Meanwhile, Gray remains calm and focused, studying without a care in the world. Jack and his gang meet up with Jimmy, who is now extremely irritated. He questions why they couldn't bring back Ben, even with Jack's assistance. They explain that Ben had other friends with him. Jimmy is shocked to see the heavily injured and bandaged thick boy, and can't believe that someone unknown could have caused such damage. One of the guys suggests that Kim might be behind it, attempting to betray them. However, Jimmy dismisses the idea, stating that Kim wouldn't be capable of such actions. Jimmy addresses the thick boy as Helmet and sarcastically asks if he's proud of all the bandages. He even mocks Helmet, asking if he needs a medal. Jimmy insults Helmet and tells him not to show his face until he receives a call. Helmet remains silent and agrees. Helmet realizes that even if Jimmy had been there, it would have been difficult. He blames himself for making them do his dirty work and decides to report everything to Donald Na.